Yo, what's up? What's up? This is your man Thatch the Great checking in once again. Let's get straight to it. Tonight, guys, I want to have a real talk about life. I want to have a talk about something that's been on my mind heavily over the last few days. And I just want to hop on live tonight and discuss with you guys. Let's talk about life, right? Let's talk about the way that, when we're young, right? When we're young or when we're in those formative years of life, those decisions that we make or those moments that we go through, those events that we live through, many of those events and moments in life, those are the things that we ultimately have to experience and things that we have to witness in order for us to ultimately become the people that we are intended to become in life, right? Life is all about series of moments, series of events, a series of decisions that you have to make. Nobody can give you the answers to the test, so to speak. We all have these decisions that start when we're very young. I'm talking about elementary school, middle school, high school, not just at the academic level, but in your personal life with your friends, the group of people that you decide to keep around you. So many decisions that we have to constantly make, and each and every decision has an effect on the way the end of your life, or should I say the rest of your life, will turn out. Now, of course, you don't know that at the time, but obviously it's true, right? And I just wanted to think about that. I just wanted to dive deep into that topic as far as the fact that, depending on where you guys come from. Now, this is obviously, if you've seen my channel before, this is not news to you, but I live in Duval County, Jacksonville, Florida. I grew up here. I spent my entire life here except for college. No surprise, right? That you guys should know that by now. And I'm just thinking about, where I'm at right now in life. Am I where I ultimately want to be when it comes to achievements, things that I want to accomplish, things that I like to obtain, things that I want to make sure that I put in place for my daughter? No, by no means am I at the top of the mountain, so to speak, as far as where I ultimately want to go in life. No, but I do live a very comfortable life. I am in a very good place in life. I have achieved a lot. Life is good. Life is great, I might even say. And the reason that I'm able to live this comfortable life right now is the fact that I had to make a whole lot of sacrifices, and I had to make a lot of tough decisions in my life, and I had to do a lot of sacrificing, and I had to have the discipline necessary to put the work in to allow me to get to this point. And I just wanted to take a moment and really reflect on, I guess you would say it's that old debate that is probably as old as time itself, as far as nature versus nurture, guys, because everybody in life has a series of moments and events and decisions that they have to go through and that they have to make in order to ultimately get to where they're intended to go in their lifetime, right? But, we live in a society now where people like to feel sorry for themselves. They like to feel sorry for themselves, and they're always looking for someone to blame. They want to find some finger. They want to find someone to point that finger at as far as why their life might not have turned out the way that they intended it to, or how they thought it was going to be. Sometimes they blame, their friend group. Sometimes they blame their parents. Sometimes they blame circumstances that they go through in life. When in actuality, the fact is they never want to actually look in the mirror and blame the person who was ultimately responsible for the shortcoming, which is themselves. That's ultimately what it comes down to, guys. In life, we all have decisions to make. We all have to, regardless of our circumstances. I don't care what environment you come from. I don't care how you were raised. I don't care how great or how bad your parents were. At the end of the day, your life is still your responsibility. It's your job to get your life on track. I know some people hate dealing with that fact. Like I said, everybody wants to have someone to blame. Everybody wants to have a scapegoat. But at the end of the day, whether or not you are a failure or a success in life, that all comes down to you. And I just wanted to briefly just give you guys a couple of examples, right? Let's go back to that old adage of nature versus nurture, right? I grew up in Central Riverside in Duval County. A lot of the kids that I grew up with, and let me also say that I always went to a magnet school. My entire life in Jacksonville, Florida, I've always gone to the best of schools. I went to Central Riverside Elementary, which was a great magnet school for elementary. Then I went to James Weldon Johnson Middle School, which was the top middle school in all of Jacksonville, Florida. And then for high school, I went to Stanton College Prep, which was the #1 high school in the entire nation my senior year. Don't believe me? Go look it up. Academically, we were #1 in the entire nation. To this day, still top 10 in the nation. I only say this just to give you a baseline and to give you guys context as far as my upbringing. And on top of that, I always had exceptional parents. Keep that in mind. Now, in my neighborhood, there's a bunch of kids that I used to play with. You know, obviously, I grew up in an era where we actually still went outside. We weren't addicted to video games in my era. We used to actually go outside, play football, play kickball, go to the court, play basketball. We're out there with each other all day, growing up together, going through shit together, fighting, scrapping, beefing, growing up together like boys used to grow up. 3 of the kids that I used to hang out with, guys, 3 of them. 3 of the dudes that I was thick as thieves with, super tough with, super tight with growing up. 3 of them niggas done went fed. 3 of them niggas have gone fed. Doing big time, federal time behind the walls, capital murder, major weight with intent to distribute. I forgot what the other ones charges are, but I'm talking about niggas doing 25 plus years in prison. Dudes that I grew up with in my neighborhood. They weren't bad kids. They weren't bad kids, but they didn't have that same foundation. They didn't have that same great guidance. They didn't have the same great parents that I had. We all went to the same elementary school, ironically. Great elementary school, but that just goes to show you nature versus nurture. Sometimes kids can all come from the same place. But as far as the path that life sets you on and where you ultimately go, that comes down to you, the decisions you make. And I'm not making excuses for those guys the way that their lives turned out. I'm simply saying that the way that depending on the structure that you're given, and also your individual mindset, that has an adverse impact on how the rest of your life will be as a child, and a child all the way up to adulthood, guys. We all went to the same elementary school, but from that point forward, we all spread out. I was always very focused when it came to school, when it came to academics, because my parents instilled that in me. Now, did my friends, did my homeboys have that same mentality? Some of them did, but obviously some of them did not. Some of them wanted to be cool. And I just thank God that I had parents that did not let me do the cool shit. And in elementary school, I still vividly remember, even though I was the top scholar in the entire school, never made a single B in my life until 8th grade, just so you know. A pluses. I cried my eyes out when I made an A- in middle school, just to give you guys context on who you're talking to. But in middle school, I wanted to go to this middle school that was the cool middle school. Man, that's where my buddies are going, man. They were going to Lake Shore. In case there's anybody from Duval County watching, I wanted to go to Lake Shore Middle School. That was the cool middle school when I was growing up. But my parents said, no, you're going to James Weldon Johnson. You got the grades. You got the best grades in the entire school. You're going to this feeder school, which is where the academically gifted go. You're going there. You're not going to Lake Shore. This is what good parents do. They listen to what the child wants, but then they use discernment and they use wisdom to make sure that the child is going on the right path. Thank God my parents didn't let me go to Lake Shore Middle School. Thank God. Anyways, some of my friends went there. Some of us went to James Weldon. Some of us went to other middle schools. But even with that being said, guys, I already had a mindset that I wanted to achieve. I wanted to reach the highest of heights when it came to academics. I wanted to learn. I really wanted to be great. I wanted to do great things. Some of my friends were already at that point. It was clear that they just wanted to be cool. They wanted to do the cool shit. They were worried about the wrong things, and that was clear. That was evident. But of course, when you're hanging out all together, you still want to be with your homeboys. That's just life. We all have choices to make. We all have choices to make. I was already making choices for myself as far as what I wanted out of life. They were also making their own. Not to say that they wanted to to be bad or be failures or be thugs or whatever. No, it's just that academics was not at the top of their priority list. They wanted to be cool. So I'm just thinking, using that analogy, as we matriculated through school, obviously, we all went on our different paths. Ultimately, like I said, mine ultimately led me to being at Stanton College Prep, and theirs, you know, I tried to keep in touch loosely as much as I could, but you know, we weren't the same. We weren't the same. We didn't have the same structure. We didn't have the same kind of parenting. I don't even know if their parents or their guardianship, you know, infrastructure, if their guardians were even pushing academics on them. You never know what these children, these kids are going through at home. You never know what responsibilities these kids might have had, or if they even had any structure at home. But I know that my parents were always exceptional. My parents always kept me on a straight and narrow path. Not that I was a bad kid to begin with, because I was already focused on being great myself as well. But part of that is due to the fact that I always had that firm, positive, nuclear parent base at home. I know some of my friends did not. Some of my friends were what you would call, what's that term? Latchkey kids, you know, where the parents go to work and they just leave the kids the key, and the kid comes home from school and then they're completely unsupervised for several hours. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it was. That's just how it was back in the day with several kids, you know? And the point is that while I grew up with a lot of kids that I went to school with, we did ultimately matriculate into life and go through school and actually go to college and become great, you know, get into great career fields, making great money. A lot of them are actually living great lives to this day, you know. But on the other end of that spectrum, I went to school with several people as well that I grew up with in my neighborhood that I was tight with. We all came from the same place. I was tight with these dudes, and yet our lives have ended up completely different. And it's due to the series of events, moments, and choices and decisions that we made with our lives. And at the end of the day, at the very end of the day, regardless of what circumstances you are subjected to in life, guys, while it may not be your fault, it is absolutely your problem to circumvent it. It's your problem to deal with, and it is your problem to make sure that you keep yourself going in the right direction. Nobody is going to feel sorry for you. Nobody is going to feel sorry for you when your life doesn't end up the way that you intended it to end up. Everybody can say, oh man, you know, I had all these struggles, I had all these tribulations that I had to deal with. Okay, but at some point, why did you never right the ship? That's what everybody's going to wonder about you. So, like I alluded to earlier, 3 of the dudes I grew up with went fed, doing federal time to this day. And you know, ironically, every now and then, I'll get phone calls from these dudes. I don't know how they get my number. I don't even ask. I get calls from behind the wall. These dudes are in federal prison. I don't know how the fuck they get my number, but they call me, and you know what? Me being the man that I am, I'm solid as they fucking come. I accept. And you know what these niggas want? They just want to talk. They just want to talk, and you know what? I listen. Niggas just want to talk behind the fucking wall. So that's another reason why when I hear those, you know, those Young Thug calls that got released and exposed, my perspective is completely different, because I know what that's like. I know what it's like when niggas is behind the fucking wall and they ain't doing shit back there but going crazy, going out their mind, seeing the same shit time and time again, and they just need somebody real to talk to out there that can tell them what the fuck is going on out there. Because ain't shit going on in there, I can guarantee you. They just want to talk to somebody that they know is real. So they call me, I listen, but I also make it clear off the jump. Listen, nigga, if you just need somebody to be a sounding board, you just want to talk every now and then, bro, I'm here for you. But don't ever get it twisted, my nigga. At no point ever will I be sending any money, putting money on books. Never. You're a grown-ass man just like I'm a grown-ass man, dog. We made our decisions. I made my decisions in my life. You made yours. Yours, unfortunately, put you where you are right now. So if you want to talk, we can talk, my nigga. But don't you ever think that I'm sending any money, ever, at any point. I got my own life. I got a little girl to take care of, and I'll be damned if I ever send a red cent to your ass. You got a better chance of seeing Louis Farrakhan at a Trump dinner before I send your ass any money. I make this clear. I make it clear. I'm not sending no grown-ass man money behind the walls. No. But if you need somebody to talk to, you want to hear some real shit, you want to know what's going on in the world, and you just need to talk, get your mind clear, dog, I'm here for you because I'm a real-ass nigga. I'm always going to be solid. I'm always going to accept, unless I'm busy. If I'm with my daughter or if I'm with my family doing something, okay, I can't accept the call. But if you call me and I'm actually not doing anything and you know, I got a few minutes to talk, I'll listen. That's all the niggas want that's behind the walls. They just want to talk. And I'll listen, bro. You never know if you might be that person or that conduit who can help somebody from going completely batshit crazy back there. You know what I'm saying? So they call, I listen, but that's just to make a point as far as these are dudes that I grew up with. These are dudes I used to be tight with. Don't know how they get my number. They talk to somebody who somehow through the grapevine they get my number and they call me. And I'll entertain the call if I'm able to. But it's just crazy how differently your life can turn out from those that you grew up with. And it all comes down to the fact that we all have a choice to make. Starting very early in our lives, we all have a choice to make on how do we really want our life to be? What do you want out of life? You need to decide that early. And then you need to start making sure that you're putting forward the effort and the initiative necessary to get to where you want to be in life. It's extremely important. I cannot stress that enough. And, you know, it's never too early to start thinking about that, guys. But the thing is, so many people, you know, they want an excuse. They want something to blame their failures or their shortcomings on. And when I start hearing people making excuses or, oh, yeah, man, I couldn't do this with my life because this or because that. No, that's bullshit. If you want to change the circumstances of your life, you have to change your perspective first. And the very first thing you have to do is get out of that mindset that you are a victim. You're not a victim. You are not a victim. You can do better. You should do better. Get off your ass and make it so. You can. I hate when people feel sorry for themselves. Feeling sorry for yourself will get you nowhere. You know? People that I grew up with, man. We all have a choice, man. We all have a choice in all aspects of our life. You're not in a career field that you ultimately intended to be in. You're just going to continue to live your life in mediocrity, being unfulfilled with life, or are you going to take the initiative necessary to change your career field? Are you going to actually put the work in to start studying or to actually do some work in your free time as far as figuring out how you can do a complete shift in the course of your life? We all have choices to make. We all have decisions that we have to make on how our lives will be. There's no excuse. Either you're going to do it or you're not. That's the point that I want to continue driving home here. You know, hold on one second. Okay, great. More on this in the chat here. Hold on one second. Okay. Yeah, I didn't get on here to play any games tonight, man. I'm not playing any fucking games tonight. This is serious, man. I don't think people face the music enough when it comes to just dealing with where they initially thought their life would be or what they initially wanted out of life. Let's say that day that you graduate from high school. You know, those thoughts that you had in your head, all those big dreams, all those lofty goals you had in your head. How many of those did you actually bring to fruition? How many of those goals did you actually achieve? How far did you get on that path before, you know, things started going off course, and then before you know it, you completely ended up in a place that you never even saw yourself being? And even more importantly, how long after that was it before you decided that you were just going to completely settle with the mediocrity that was your life, and that you were never going to make any attempts to get your life on track. We all have a choice. Being mediocre is a choice. Being broke is a choice. Being uneducated is a choice, especially in this day that we're living in right now, where information is just readily available at all of our fingertips. It's absolutely inexcusable. It's inexcusable to be, I don't know. It's inexcusable to be completely comfortable with living a life that is not fulfilling to you. That's just the way that I feel personally. Maybe I'm unique in that mindset. I don't know. Anyways, man, I just wanted to talk about decisions, because when I look at the path that I've taken in life, decisions when it comes to, obviously I've already touched on the academic aspect of it, and as far as the, nurture versus nature, the fact that I grew up around a myriad of young people and kids, and when I was coming up, and we've all ended up in different places in life. Some of us have really pushed it hard and achieved great things, and then there's other people who completely fell by the wayside and who went in completely different paths. I mean, matter of fact, let's get back to my high school. As I mentioned earlier, my high school was the #1 high school in the entire nation academically. Basically, if you went to my high school and you graduated, you actually made it through the curriculum all 4 years, you pretty much wrote your own ticket as far as, at the very least, you wrote your own ticket as far as getting into a good university. Now, me personally, I chose an HBCU. I went to Florida A&M University, where I graduated with a degree, well, double concentration in business administration and marketing. I got accepted by UF, UCF, and FSU as well, but I wanted to go to an HBCU. So obviously, Florida A&M University is where I chose to go, and that's where I graduated from. Go Rattlers. Now, believe it or not, as great of a high school as I went to, there were people that graduated with me that also went down to Tallahassee with me, but they weren't focused. It's like they were just down there to party. They let the party life overtake them, and before you know it, after 2 years down there in Tallahassee, they got their asses kicked out of college, and then they were right back home in Jacksonville living with their mamas. How do you go to the #1 high school in the nation and yet find yourself back in Jacksonville doing nothing with your life after just 2 years of college? Decisions and mindset. We all have to make the right decisions. I was focused on getting through college because that's what I was down there for. Don't get me wrong, I had tons of fun. I smashed tons of chicks. I went to tons of parties. I had an amazing college campaign. But at no point was it lost on me that the reason I was in Tallahassee was to get an education, was to get my college degree. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, you have a lot of people that went down there, got addicted to the life of partying, going to house parties, smoking, and they completely fell off course. I'm telling you guys, I don't give a damn about how people try to blame, where they initially came from. They try to find something to blame, find something to point their fingers at. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what matters is your mindset. And once you become an adult, like at that point, we're talking about we're 19, 20, 21. You're an adult. You can't blame your parents anymore. At some point, you got to start wanting it for yourself. And the problem with so many people that I went down to Tallahassee with is that they completely lost themselves in that party life, in that college town. And I can't, for the life of me, understand how. When I was in the exact same town as them, for the exact same reason, and I'm still having tons of fun, and yet somehow I kept it together, got my education, and I still had just as much fun. Because I know what I wanted out of life. I knew that I was making all the right decisions to set myself up for success in the future. Some people are so short-sighted, though. They will sacrifice a successful future. They will sacrifice the prospect of being able to get out of college and get a good job and set themselves up for life. They will sacrifice all of that just for short-term fun. Mindset, decisions. Once again, is this beginning to resonate? We all have a choice. We all have a choice. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. When it comes to your life, you have a choice. I don't care how fucked up your upbringing was. Don't get me wrong. The way that you were raised can definitely have an impact drastically on how your life begins. But once you get away from that toxic environment, once you're able to know better, once you're able to know that there's more from life that you could be getting out there, then it becomes your fault, your problem to fix, to ratify, to straighten out. Once you know better, you need to do better. Because once you're an adult, nobody's going to listen to excuses on why your life is a failure. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. No one. Once again, the things that we go through in life, guys, they're not always our fault. However, everything that we go through in life is ultimately our problem to deal with and to fix. It's not your fault, but it is your problem to deal with. Decisions, 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 decisions. Where you go to school, how much time you actually put towards your goals, how much time you're putting towards your fitness, your wellness, the women that you deal with. And that's one that I, obviously, if you've seen any of my content, that's one that I continue to have to reconcile with, because no one can take that blame but me. I have to sit in that blame. You know, I obviously, it's no secret, I have a very tumultuous dynamic with the mother of my child. I get on here sometimes and I just black out and I complain about, you know, how difficult she is to deal with. But at the end of the day, nobody put a gun to my head and made me, you know, have sexual relations with her. Nobody made me deal with her. That's on me. I made a choice. I made a choice to deal with her. Nobody can take that blame but me. All the crazy situations I've been through in the past with women, nobody can take that blame but me. I have to look at myself in the mirror and say, you know what? You knew better in this particular situation, yet you still did this, that, and the third. Decisions, choices. But what separates the men from the boys is the fact that grown-ass men can look at the choices and the decisions that they've made in their life and they can own it. And I own every single decision that I've ever made in life, good or bad. I take accountability for my actions. That's what a grown-up does. Anyways, man, I just wanted to get on here and just briefly talk about the way that life can sometimes, it can sometimes lead you to a crossroads as far as being able to see where your life has intersected with so many different people that you've met and come across in your lifetime. And it all comes down to decisions that we make on how far we can go in life, man. The one wrong decision is all it takes to completely derail an otherwise extremely bright future. I know that firsthand, just looking at some of the people that I went to school with and high school with. There's some people that I went to high school with that to this day have made absolutely nothing of themselves. We're talking about people that went to school with me, the #1 high school in the entire nation. Set yourself up. Like I said, you write your own ticket as far as what university you want to go to, pretty much. As long as you were able to make it through that grueling IB and AP curriculum, and you got that Stanton College prep on your damn transcript, You could literally go damn near anywhere you wanted to because our grades were all damn good. And we went to the top high school in the nation. I mean, I went to high school with people that went to Stanford, Harvard, Penn, Yale, Columbia, UF, FSU, Cornell, you name it. People that I went to school with went to all these universities. People that I went to school with to this day are some of the most successful people you could know. Doctors, teachers, engineers, lawyers, venture capitalists. I went to high school with all of these extremely successful people. I'm a successful person myself in finance. But the reason that we've been able to reach these heights of success is due to the fact that we have constantly made a concerted effort to make smart decisions with our lives. Nobody can do that for you. You have to want it for yourself, guys. That's the point that I'm making here. We all have a choice. We all have a choice on how successful we ultimately will become. We all have a choice on what we want to do with our lives. You only get one life. Don't waste it. Don't waste it. And more importantly, don't live your life for anybody but you. Don't let your parents tell you what you can't be. Oh, no, that's not a good idea. What are you passionate about? What do you want to become? Dare to dream big. Don't dream small. Dream big. Shoot for the fucking stars. And even if you miss them, at least you'll probably land on the moon. You know? Don't limit yourself. Dream big and always be cognizant that each and every choice that you make in your life will have an adverse impact on how the rest of your life turns out. Keep that in mind, all right? And that's why I'm going to go ahead and end this stream, guys. I just want to talk some real talk to you tonight. No trending news, no salacious shit. I just want to have a real talk, all right? I appreciate you for listening. This is your man, Thatch the Great. I'll holla. Peace.